Good evening. Over the last 2 weeks we've been looking at the holy month of Ramadan, the reasons for fasting, the different prayer times and the traditional food here in Qatar during Ramadan. This week we see the traditional night for children, Garangao, and the night of power, when on the most important night of Ramadan it is said that the Holy Quran was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad. But first, Anwar, we ended last week after the Fatur, or breakfast, but there's another prayer left, which I think is called the Tarawih. What's that exactly?
Yeah, that's the night prayers, as we've also been saying in the previous episodes, that prayers, obligatory prayers, that is, are 5 during the days, and we've explained that, and Muslims are invited to do extra prayers, both during the day at certain given times, and all night if they can afford it. So night prayers is not something that's limited to Ramadan. Night prayers is something which a Muslim is encouraged to do throughout his lifetime. And the Quran is also very clear about this, and if I may, we can also recite some verses from the Quran to this effect. It says in Surah Isra, verse 79, "And pray in the small hours of the morning, it would be an additional prayer or a spiritual profit for thee. Maybe thy Lord reward thee with a station of praise and glory unmatched before, both on earth and in the hereafter." The station of praise here is something that Allah is preserving for Prophet Muhammad, but each other Muslim is to seek not that exact station, but at least the closest thing to it, and this can be achieved by excelling oneself in night prayers. Another verse from Surah Zariyat, it says, "The righteous were in the habit of sleeping but little by night, and in the hours of early dawn they were found praying for forgiveness." It is interesting here to notice the reference to the righteous, which is a reference to other religious groups before Islam, because as we've said before, Islam is an old religion, and it considers all the teachings that were preached by Christ, by Moses, by Abraham, by Adam, and by all the other prophets, is in conformity with what Islam is preaching as well. A third verse says, "Stand for prayer by night, but not all night, half of it, or a little less, or a little more, and recite the Quran in slow, measured, rhythmic tones." This itself is a third, if you like, kind of Islamic prayer, reciting the Quran. The Quran acknowledges that to stay awake during the night to pray is something not very easy, but nevertheless you're encouraged to do so as a Muslim. And in Surah Muzammil it says, "Truly staying awake for night prayers is taxing to both body and soul, yet prescribed hardship strengthens both of them." Yes.
So you can see these various surahs and the different names, where do they come from exactly? I know that in the last couple of programs you were talking about Al-Baqarah, which means the cow. Why are they called these names?
Well, each surah in the Quran has a name, and the Quran, of course, is made of about 114 surahs. And this Surah Baqarah is given this name because at one stage during the surah it deals with the story of the cow which was slain at the time of Moses, to reveal something about someone who'd killed a third party. I'm familiar with the story in Arabic, and I don't know whether you're familiar with it. I think the story comes up also in the Bible and in other books. Yes. So it takes its name from a certain reference to a certain incident during the surah. So they get their names from these references. So night prayers is not something that is limited to Ramadan. This is what we've been trying to establish by referring to these various verses from the various surahs. So throughout his lifetime, a Muslim is encouraged to do night prayers voluntarily, if he can. In Ramadan, it is voluntarily. There's no penalty for not doing Taraweeh, which is exactly the name given to night prayers during Ramadan. So night prayers in other months is night prayers, but during Ramadan it is Taraweeh. Taraweeh prayers at the time of the Prophet were not done in congregation. And there are some scholars who up to this day would say if you do Taraweeh individually, it is better, because this is how the Prophet used to do it. But at the time of the second caliphate after the Prophet, the well-known Umar ibn al-Khattab, people began this practice of doing Taraweeh, because night prayers, you don't do night prayers in congregation, you do them individually at home. But some Muslims during the reign of Caliph Umar began doing this in congregation, and he liked it, he approved of it, and ever since Muslims observed it, doing Taraweeh in congregation. But there are 3 rakahs at the end of Taraweeh, which is Shaf'a and Watr. These are better done individually. So those of us Muslims who want to do more than what the Taraweeh prayer, the prayers in congregation are, would not do these last 3 rakahs, because these, when you've done, you should go to bed, because this should be the last thing you do before you go to bed. So those of us who want to do more night prayers after Taraweeh in congregation don't do these 3 rakahs. They detach themselves from the group and go back home, do whatever they want to do, have a light meal or whatever, and then devote more time for more prayers. And then they must, before they go to bed, do these 3 rakahs. And then that concludes it. That's, yeah.
Ramadan is special for children. What does the Quran have to say about children in Ramadan?
Well, the Quran doesn't say anything explicitly about children in this respect, but any society, in any society, children form an integral part of it, because they represent the future. And I mean, take for instance in the Christian world, shall we say, Christmas time, when children are given presents, and Baba, and what do you call it, Father Christmas, and these things, they look on the surface as being playful things or light-hearted things, but in fact what these things do is that they implant in the mind of the child the traditions of that society. So in the Islamic world it is also similar, though the outward appearance of things is different, yet the activities of the children during this month of Ramadan and other holy occasions, as we shall see during the Eid later on, are important in this respect. They are part of society's way of programming, shall we say, these children to accept the norms and values of that society.
And of course you're taught to pray and how to actually perform the prayers from a very early age.
Yes, of course. This is why Prophet Muhammad was very keen that children, Muslim children, should do prayers at an early age, because as Arab tradition has it, they say one's childhood is one's manhood. Because, and I think modern psychology also has proved the old Arabs to be right, because what we are doing today is the outcome of programs we received when we were children. And if a psychiatrist wants to treat somebody, he takes him back to his childhood, and he will find a clue in the childhood of that man to help him, or that patient to help him solve his problem. So childhood or children, childhood is very important. It is amazing. Even if you look at yourself, what you're doing, and try to relate it back to your childhood, you will find that you're only a grown-up child, actually.
But in schools here, the Quran is very much the basis of the formative years of education, isn't it?
Yes, formative years indeed. And yes, but the Quran, of course, when taught to children at that age, is not simply the Quran. It's also the language, because by reciting it and learning it, they're not learning Quran only, they're also learning Arabic language at its best form.
Right, and so let's turn to Qatari tradition. And on the 15th night of the month of Ramadan, there is a night called Garango, especially for children, where if they're lucky, they go around knocking on doors and they collect little sweets and nuts. So let's go out into the streets of Doha sometime about 7 or 8 o'clock at night and see children and Garango.
ندش من بيت لبيت.
ايوه.
أوه.
يعني متى تسوون القرنقعو هذه؟ بس في رمضان؟
في نص رمضان.
في نص رمضان. زين وشلون تجمعون تو قبل الفطور ها؟
عقب الفطور بشوي.
وتجمعون تمرون على اليهال كلهم وتروحون؟
ايه.
زين وين تودي هذه عقب ما تجمع القرنقعو؟
بيت.
تودي البيت؟
Garango here in Doha. That was a nice little film, wasn't it, Anwar?
Yeah, very nice indeed. And I've been told actually by Hussein here in the VTR Service 37 a few days ago that they celebrate Grango, children celebrate Grango twice in the month of Sha'ban and Ramadan. On the 15th of Ramadan, of Sha'ban they have Grango, and also on the 15th of Ramadan. It is perhaps worth mentioning that the children go about knocking doors, asking people to give them something to mark the occasion, and they usually receive sweets and other things on the occasion. Hussein gave me some a few days ago, actually.
That's what they were getting in the film there.
Yeah.
Now, of course, at night Doha really comes alive, and all the shops are open, and people go out shopping or just window shopping.
Yes, this shopping business is very much, I don't know, I might be philosophizing a bit here, but it is significant because activities during the holy month of Ramadan are actually divided between prayers and worldly activities, whereby one has to keep going, you know. And this again reminds me of a verse in the Quran. It says, "Seek with the wealth which God has bestowed on thee the home at the hereafter, but forget not thy portion in this world." So when people go to the souk, I always think of them as not forgetting their portion in this world. You know?
Doha Souk at night there. Well, we mentioned earlier that the 15th is an important night for children, but it's also an important night for every Muslim, because I think this is when you should try and find the night of power.
Yes. The last 10 days of Ramadan acquire great importance to all fasting believers, because they have been ordered actually by the Prophet to seek during these 10 days the night of power. And Islamic tradition has it that it is best sought on the nights of the 25th and 27th of Ramadan. And I've come across many translations of the word of on the night of power. In Encyclopedia Britannica it says night of determination. But when I consulted Arabic references, I found out that Qadr actually means Taqdeer, which means evaluation. This is the night when the Lord has honored the Prophet by revealing the Quran to him. Not all at once, but the Quran began to be revealed to the Prophet on a similar night like this. It's a night when the angels, including Gabriel, come down, you see, and this is what we shall see being referred to in the surah to that effect later on. And so it is also something which a Muslim should seek by offering more prayers and reciting more Quran. The return is not something like Aladdin's magic lamp, you know. It is something very much spiritual. You might have the night of power, your prayers might have been answered, you know, without you knowing it. Because we believe as Muslims that whatever prayers you offer to God in good faith are answered. But you don't need to get the return in this world. You get it also as well in the hereafter. And it is very important in the Islamic tradition that your belief in the hereafter be as equally strong as your belief in this life here. Let's see what the surah says. It says, we have indeed revealed this message in the night of power. And what do you think the night of power is? The good in the night of power exceeds what good there is in 1,000 nights, or in 1,000 months actually. During the night, by God's permission, come down on every errand the angels and the Spirit. Peace, this until the rise of moon. During the night, peace there is, that means when you get it, you know you got it, and then you feel in peace, or shall we say in oneness with the entire universe. And it is significant that it is peace until the rise of moon, because the rise of moon actually, not moon, the rise of moon, because then you'll have to give up this spiritual posture and go on to work.
Well, it must be very spiritual, sort of beneficial to have this spiritual feeling, sort of inner light, sort of almost within
Yes,
this.
indeed, you've got to experience it to know what it is all about. And I think many people these days in the West and in many parts are beginning to find out how important it is to find time for meditation. We even have wrestlers meditating. We've seen.
It's a shame that this peaceful feeling isn't more prevalent in today's society.
Yes, and this is why I think society will have to come to terms with it. They'll go. I think people are more and more coming to know that they've got to seek this spiritual refuge for peace of mind and soul and even body.
Well, let's go back out to Doha at night and see what Doha looks like. Maybe having performed your prayers, you've gone out and see what Doha looks like. Maybe 12, 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. So with that, we come to the end of this week's programme. Next week we should be looking at Eid al-Fitr, the last programme in the series. Until then, from Anwar and myself, goodbye.